14. He turns the fastball over a little bit more. He's still got that good cutter, and then he can elevate the fastball upstairs. Happ has always had the ability to get the strikeouts up in the zone with the fastball, and he's also handled the 2 big bats in this lineup, Mark Teixeira and Alex Rodriguez, just 2 for 17 against Jay Happ.
For the Yankees tonight, a big guy with a pretty big arm in Michael Pineda. Yankee fans almost every year, Tappy, they're wondering, is this the year Pineda turns the corner, becomes a really top-of-the-rotation guy?
At times, very dominant. At times, he can be very intimidating because he's 6'7". Then you start looking into the numbers. He's got a great career earned run average. He doesn't walk anybody, but he's just 2 games over 500 for his career. The slider can be the neutralizer against the Blue Jay bats tonight, but he makes a lot of mistakes with it. He can hang it. He had 3 home runs in his last start, but when it is on, he can be really good. Evidence of that 16 strikeout game against the Baltimore Orioles.
The Blue Jays are hitting just .210 as a team. Hard to believe through 8 games. That's the 2nd lowest batting average in the American League right now. They're hoping to boost those numbers and score some runs tonight, Jamie, against the Yankees.
Jays on Sportsnet. Presented by the all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Welcome back inside Rogers Center. Second game of a three-game series between the Yankees and the Blue Jays. With the Yankees winning the opener last night. New York's 4-2 on the season. The Jays are 3-5. Joe Girardi, a rare chance to smile before the game. Not a whole lot of smiling for managers once the games begin. Here is the lineup for the Yankees. No Brian McCann tonight. A couple of reasons. The toe and the left-hander Happ on the mound. A dangerous switch hitter in Carlos Beltran, who has 3 career home runs off J. Happ. And Starlin Castro, with some of the changes in the Yankee lineup, moving up to 6th in the order. He's off to a good start this year, and he has had success in his career against J. Happ.
A lot more righties in that lineup tonight for the Yankees, and J. Happ's going to have to deal with it. What a year he had last year. He set career highs in starts and innings pitched and strikeouts last year, and he continued it in his first start of this season. Held the Rays to just 2 earned runs over 6 innings. Actually left that game leading, and the bullpen gave it up. And this has been a start just like last year, and this all started for him last year. 2 earned runs or less in 10 of his last 11 outings. He has not faced the Yankees since August of 2014.
Take a look at the defense behind J. Happ. It is Saunders, Pilar, and Bautista in the outfield. The left side of the infield becomes very important with J. Happ, the lefty, on the mound. Donaldson and Tulowitzki on the left side. Goins and Smoke. Justin making his second start at first base. Russell Martin back behind the plate. He'll call the signals for J. Happ. Josh Donaldson, he's got to be on his toes down there with that fastball coming inside. He might get some action at third with J. Happ on the mound.
And plenty of righties in the lineup, too.
Jacoby Ellsbury leads it off for the Yankees, hitting an even .250 thus far on the season, and Happ pours into first pitch fastball for a strike. Chad Fairchild is the home plate umpire tonight. Jim Joyce, the crew chief, at first. Marvin Hudson at second, and James Hoy at third. It'll be Ellsbury, Aaron Hicks, and then Alex Rodriguez here in the first for the Yankees. With Jim Joyce, by the way, at first, that means tomorrow night we will be treated, in my opinion, to the best strike call in all of baseball.
Without question, the veteran Jim Joyce has a very loud and distinct strike call.
It is worth tuning in for. Here's a little broken bat looper into center field, a base hit. Remember, Ellsbury had one of those to drive in the go-ahead run in the 7th inning of last night's game. That one was to left. This one to center, and the leadoff man is aboard.
This is actually the second time that J. Happ will be facing the Yankees this season. You say, well, how could that be? Well, he pitched against him in spring training and pitched really well. One of the players he did not face was Ellsbury. Ellsbury had the day off that afternoon, but J. Happ was dominant in his 6 innings against the Yankees.
In the 2 spot tonight in the Yankee lineup is Aaron Hicks. Because Happ is on the mound, some of the lefties, including Brett Gardner, getting the night off. Hicks is a versatile guy, a switch hitter, can play all 3 outfield spots.
In that game that I was just talking about, it was Aaron Hicks who was the leadoff hitter in that game, Dan, and he hit a home run off of J. Happ, and then Jay settled down and had 14 consecutive outs. He also had 14 ground ball outs that afternoon.
Gardner not in the starting lineup tonight. Hicks hit .256 last year with Minnesota, 11 home runs, stole 13 bases. The Yankees picked him up in an offseason deal for catcher John Ryan Murphy. And again, the Yankees, bit by bit, piece by piece, are trying to get younger, trying to get more athletic. They do have some, obviously, guys who have been around forever. A-Rod, and Beltran, Sabathia, Teixeira, all older players. But you can start to see glimpses of youth, more athleticism with Gregorius and Castro. And also their starting rotation, with the exception of Sabathia, it's 4 young guys in there right now.
It's the first time since 1996 that their average age on opening day is under 30. So they are headed in the right direction, and they have position players coming in their minor league system.
Ground ball to short. To second one, on to first, double play.
One of the things that we saw in that game in spring training. Jay Happ can turn the ball over and use that sinker to get the ball on the ground. And there it is right there. Right-hander pulls it into a tailor-made double play.
Char Tulowitzki and Ryan Goins have become very good friends off the field, and they work like brothers on the field. And Tulowitzki gave Goins a perfect feed to start that 6-4-3 double play.
So just like that, 2 down, nobody on, and here's A-Rod. Rodriguez takes a fastball inside corner for a strike. Hitting just 167 so far. Does have a home run. A full-time DH for the Yankees again. The Yankees have no intention of playing him in the field at any point. Joe Girardi would love to rotate some of his other older players through that DH spot, but in order to do that, A-Rod's got to get a rest, got to get a day off.
Going to have to wait another year, too.
Yeah.
He's got another year on his contract.
And said he will retire at the end of next year, then kind of backpedaled a little bit and then said, well, I'm still unclear, but I mean, whether anybody would sign him beyond next season, he would already be 42 years old, but he is signed with the Yankees through 2017. 1-2, and it's popped out of play right side.
I think a lot of it has to do with just what he does this season. He had a pretty good season a year ago, 33 home runs and 86 RBIs, and if he puts up numbers close to those numbers, somebody's going to sign him.
Yep. Well, and you wonder how much is it in his mind milestones, the milestones that he could approach or surpass over the next couple of years if he's healthy. There aren't many in front of him in many categories anymore.
Did you see Barry Bonds' comment about him the other day, saying he's not going to catch my home run record? He's not going to do it. He'd have to play 3 years and hit 30 home runs every year.
I think he's 74 back of him right now. So
the unfortunate part of the whole thing is both of those numbers are tainted.
Yes.
That's the unfortunate part of the whole thing.
You'll find more baseball fans who still say Hank Aaron is the home run champion.
And it's really sad because they were both terrific players without any help, and then they both decided to go down that path, and I think they'll always regret it, no matter whether they admit it or not. They'll always have that cloud hanging over them.
It also cost him a full year. A-Rod was not the Bond. It cost A-Rod a full year, the suspension 2 years ago. Happ strikes him out to win the inning. No runs, a base hit, a double play, and then the A-Rod strikeout. Blue Jays coming up in the bottom of the first. The bottom of the first here at Rogers Center. John Gibbons and the Blue Jays hoping to bounce back from a defeat to the Yankees last night. The Yankees don't score in the top half of the inning, and here is John Gibbons' lineup tonight, including Jose Bautista on the brink of his 800th career RBI, off to a very good start this season, and Edwin Encarnacion, who is hitting behind him in the lineup with some good numbers against Pineda, hitting over 300, and he's got a home run off the big righty as well.
He can be intimidating and dominant all at the same time. Michael Pineda gets ready for a second start of the season. There's his record this year. He's pitching on an extended 6 days. He worked on the 6th versus Houston through 5 innings, gave up 6 earned runs to the Astros. For his career, he's got a 360 earned run average versus the Blue Jays. in 8 career starts, but his record's just 2-2 against the Blue Jays.
Every year the potential outweighs the production for Michael Pineda, but they're hoping for big things again this year. Kevin Pillar will lead it off for the Blue Jays and take a little bit inside. Ball 1. Pillar, Donaldson, and Bautista. Again, the top third of the lineup. Corner infielders are even with the bag. Middle infielders backed up as Pillar looks at a strike. Pineda was acquired a few years ago by the Yankees from Seattle for Jesus Montero, who is now in the Blue Jay organization and is off to a very good start, albeit a week into the season, but off to a very good start swinging the bat down in Buffalo. Next pitch on the way. Pillar gets a piece to stay alive.
There's that slider, and that's a pitch you're going to have to keep your eye on. What happens to Pineda is he makes too good of pitches with that slider. George Springer hit a grand slam with 2 strikes. He hung a slider off him in his first start of the season.
Now he chases a hard slider in the dirt to strike out.
He'll make too many mistakes with that breaking ball. He'll show too many pitches into the strike zone. But when he is expanding and throwing the ball down like that, that's where he'll get his strikeouts.
So he strikes out Pillar. Now here's Josh Donaldson. Should get another look at that slider down and away.
Nothing wrong with that, bouncing a ball like that with 2 strikes.
Generally speaking, he will pitch away from the right-handed batters more than into the right-handed batters. So do you guys expect the Blue Jays to maybe think a little opposite field a little bit more, or do they just do what they normally do?
I think they're looking for a particular part of the plate. You see Russell Martin's studying the scouting report now, trying to get a pattern. There's one pitch inside, but look where it is. It's about 6 inches off the plate. He sends that for a message. Now he's going to try to work to the outside.
I thought the Blue Jays did a great job yesterday of working over Tanaka. They had a game plan against him and really ran that pitch count up and said, you know what, we're going to make him get the ball up. We're going to make him throw strikes. And he was gone after, what, 5 innings last night?
And he was up into the 70s in the 3rd inning.
I think we'll see the same thing tonight against a different type of pitcher than Tanaka, a little bit harder thrower.
This is low, 2-2. He'll use the slider a lot, especially against right-handed batters. Donaldson already with 4 home runs and 9 runs driven in the first 8 games of the season. 2-2, slider and a swing and a miss. Ball in the dirt, fired down to first, and back-to-back strikeouts for Pineda to begin the night.
Well, you don't need much of a defense if you're going to strike everybody out, but you can bet the defense is going to be important for Pineda. Aaron Hicks is a former center fielder. He's playing in left field tonight. Ellsbury and Beltran round out the outfield defense. Ronald Torreyes gets the start at short. He Glorious not in against the lefty Jay Happ. Starlin Castro's at second. Austin Romine and Michael Pineda make the battery up for New York. Austin Romine filling in for Brian McCann, and man mentioned McCann. He got a foul ball off his foot last night. This is the 50th career start for Austin Romine.
Known more for the glove than the bat. His brother plays for the Tigers. Andrew Romine. Here's Jose Bautista. The count of 1-1. 2 outs. Nobody on. No score. Bottom of the first. And Michael Pineda on the appeal. No swing. He looks sharp in the early going. Velocity is good as always, and he's getting swings and misses on that slider.
A lot of righties in that lineup for the Blue Jays tonight, and you look at some of the raw numbers that he has. He'll throw that slider 35% of the time, but with 2 strikes it jumps up to 48%, so you can look for it.
Fastball over the outside edge, 2-2. And Pineda a pitch away potentially from striking out the side here in the first inning. Trying to come in. And Bautista laces it into center field, a base hit.
Well, Bautista never gives up his strength, and his strength is in the inner half, and I don't care how hard you throw. You can't throw a fastball by Bautista on the inside part of the plate. He tried to sneak one by him, but you just can't do it. Jose is so quick, and he's seeing the ball so well early in the season. He turned on that heater.
Pitchers think they can get a fastball by him, but he is so quick on the inner half. He's lucky that ball didn't leave the yard.
So a 2-out base hit for Bautista. And here's Encarnacion hitting .267. Does not have a home run yet this year. Has driven in 4. Off the end of the bat down the right side and out of play.
Edwin put on a show today in batting practice, and he was focused on hitting everything to center field. He must have hit 15 balls into the WestJet flight deck during BP, and I think he's about ready to go off.
That's when he starts to go off, doesn't it? When he starts to think about the middle of the field from left center to right center field, starts driving the ball just a little bit. Nothing wrong with his swing.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with his swing.
Blue Jays looking for somebody other than Donaldson and Bautista to really start doing some damage. They've been carrying a lot of the load. There's another good slider thrown by Pineda. So Encarnacion in the hole, no balls, 2 strikes. Castro, who was playing more up the middle behind the bag, comes a little bit back towards his normal position with a 2-strike count now on Encarnacion, who grounds one foul up the third baseline.
Well, you can't keep throwing slider after slider after slider, right? You got to mix it up against these guys. They're too good of a hitter.
Yeah, they are, and that was his problem so far. When he's gotten to 2 strikes, he's kept it out of the strike zone, which is important for his success. But now Edwin, he's on it pretty good right now. Be careful.
Trying to come in again. Popped him up in foul territory and back out of play.
Even if you show him that ball in there, you have to do something different. Even if you show him the fastball in, stand him up, move him back just a little bit off the plate. Now you can go to your strikeout pitch.
Bautista the lead at first, 2 down, no score. Bottom of the first inning here at Rogers Center as Pineda comes set. Again the 0-2 and a slider lined into left field, a base hit. Bautista a big turn, but will put the brakes on a pitch that Pineda threw much differently than the other sliders. That one was right over the heart of the plate.
Well, it sure was. He was very tentative, and you can see he actually slowed his arm down, which is a red flag to a hitter. He's trying to throw a strike and really didn't finish this pitch, so it stays on the inner half, and Edwin's able to spoil it, even though it might have been low.
How many times have we seen pitchers get the first 2 batters against the Blue Jays and then become very defensive when Bautista and Encarnacion come up?
And for the 7th time in 9 games now, the Blue Jays have forced an opposing starting pitcher to throw at least 20 pitches in the first inning. That's the good news. They're starting off games pretty well. They're working pitchers, but they're not coming up with the big hits for those crooked numbers, and they're not doing anything late in games against the other team's bullpens. There's a slider over the inner half for a strike. 0-1 to Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah, they're missing that big hit, and that was the theme for them in the second half of the season last year. They'd get a couple hits and somebody'd hit a gapper somewhere.
From top to bottom. It wasn't just one guy or 2 guys. It was everybody. Every night it was somebody different winning ball games for them or coming up with big hits.
Well, Troy Tulowitzki is a guy they really need to get going. He is 3 for 28 so far with 12 strikeouts. He was working on a leg kick in the spring. He's gone back to a toe tap right now. What do you guys see when you watch Tulowitzki?
Right now it just looks like he's in between. He's a little unsure of himself, not seeing the pitches, maybe getting a little bit too pull happy at times, trying to do too much, but it's just a matter of time. He's too good of a hitter. Just a matter of time before he starts coming up with some big hits.
0-2 in the dirt and blocked by Romine to keep the runners at first and second.
Yeah, when you're hitting against Pineda, you have to set your sights on that slider, and if it's mid-thigh high, it's going to be a ball. You want the one that starts out about letter high, and that's the one you got a chance to hit. But if you can, and I know it's hard, but if you can identify the height of that slider and then lay off that low one.
The 1-2. Ground ball to the right side. Nice hop for Teixeira, and the inning is over. As the Blue Jays get a couple of 2-out base hits, but strand them. No score at the end of 1.
Live on your phone and tablet with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Blue Jays and stay up to the moment at any moment with scores, news, live game video highlights, and much more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Dan.
Hazel, thank you. Top of the second here at Rogers Center. Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, Pat Tabler. No score. Yankees and Blue Jays. Jay Happ gave up a leadoff base hit to Jacoby Ellsbury in the first, then got a double play ball, then struck out Alex Rodriguez. And now he faces cleanup hitter Mark Teixeira. .227 with a couple of home runs so far this year. After hitting 31 last year in fewer than 400 at bats. In a season that was cut short by injury. Fouled the ball off his shin, suffered a broken bone, did not play again during the season. They really are hoping that he stays healthy for a variety of reasons, because he's very productive. And also Greg Bird, who came up and did a great job for them last year when Teixeira got hurt. He's hurt and out for the season.
Yeah, he had shoulder surgery and he's not a factor, so you need to keep Teixeira healthy. The Yankees got a scare last night with Brian McCann when he had that foul ball go off his foot, and they thought there was a chance he might have broken that toe, but he's relieved to find out he just took a beating on that toenail. And boy, I tell you what, there aren't too many teams that can afford to lose their frontline catcher. The Yankees and the Blue Jays are two of those teams.
Absolutely.
Well, you can name a bunch of other teams, can't you? Yeah. Can't lose their #1 catcher.
Well, St. Louis, what it was like to go without Molina for such a long stretch at the end of last season.
I mean, there's a bunch of them that they lean heavily on. Joe Girardi, he had a pretty good catching partner when he played in Jorge Posada.
I'll tell you, Salvador Perez, in his own way, is as valuable as any catcher in baseball to his team. Bouncer to third. Donaldson throws out to Teixeira, 1 down.
Save during the homeowner sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Back in Toronto, where was another cool day today, although rumor has it spring is around the corner. Maybe like tomorrow it's actually going to warm up.
Talking about 20s over the weekend, and everybody's ready to break out the barbecues.
Carlos Beltran is the batter. And a swing and a foul tip. The count is 1-1 on Beltran, hitting .250 with a couple of home runs and 4 driven in. The Yankees have a lot of switch hitters. Generally speaking, 3 with Teixeira, Beltran, and Headley. 4 tonight with Aaron Hicks in there. So you never get that much of a platoon advantage if you're a pitcher. even if you're an ambidextrous pitcher. And the Blue Jays have one of those. For those who haven't heard, they called up Pat Venditti today. They designated Arnold Leon for assignment, and they purchased the contract, I guess is the accurate way to say it, of Pat Venditti. I think most Blue Jays fans know by now, but he is ambidextrous.
And he will pitch mostly left-handed out of that bullpen. Now, I think that was a big part of what was missing down in that pen, especially late in the game, that second left-hander once Morales went down.
So if he does come in to pitch, for example, if he faced a lefty, then a righty, then a lefty, he would pitch lefty, then righty, then lefty. He's got one glove. He's got 6 fingers, a thumb on each end, and he just changes it as quickly as can be. But you're right. The Blue Jays are looking at him predominantly as a left-handed pitcher.
He was originally drafted by the Yankees. He was a 20th round draft pick in 2008 and made his debut at Staten Island pitching in the New York Penn League. But he's an interesting guy. He had a great spring.
Almost made the team out of spring training.
Yeah.
Gibby was telling us before the ball game that he had a really good shot at making it out of the spring training, but was sent back down. And today was the first day that recalls could come back, right? After 10 days.
Yeah. So they thought about Ryan Tepera, of course, who they saw last year, but in the words of John Gibbons, they wanted to give Venditti a look. He pitched for Oakland last year, had some success, especially when he could avoid switch hitters, so he could have that advantage. When he faces a switch hitter, he has to declare which arm he's going to throw with first. Then the hitter gets to decide which way he's going to hit. And in every case last year, Venditti threw with his left hand. The hitter hit right, but the switch hitters, they roughed him up a little bit. Fouled off by Castro, full count.
In his pro debut in 2008, pitching for Staten Island, he was up against the Brooklyn Cyclones, and the first batter he faced was a switch hitter. And they went back and forth, and they finally umpire said, wait a minute, the hitter has to make up his mind first. Then they eventually changed the rule.
Now the Venditti rule. Full count pitch on the way to Castro. Good fastball that jams him, and it's fouled back.
Kind of like what we saw in spring training. We saw that happen in spring training. The cat and mouse game. There's one going on at the plate right now too. Starlin Castro is seeing everything from Jay Happ.
Happ's second start of the year. Finished off great with Pittsburgh last year after the trade from Seattle. Went 7-2 with a 1.85 ERA. So many guys have gone to Pittsburgh in recent years, and under the tutelage of pitching coach Ray Searage have really taken that next step, whether it's Mark Melanson, their closer, Francisco Liriano, who is still there, even a veteran guy like A.J. Burnett speaks with reverence about Ray Searage. Happ, 11 great starts, parlayed that into a $36 million deal as he issues a 2-out walk to Castro.
They've got another reclamation project there this year, Juan Nicasio in Pittsburgh. If they can fix that guy, Ray Searage might be the best.
They're underway at Fenway Park. No score through half an inning. The unbeaten Orioles, 7-0 on the season, did not score top of the first at Boston. The Orioles still undefeated on the year, and Minnesota and Atlanta still looking for their first wins of the season. One final earlier today, the Mets defeated the Marlins 2-1. Everything else is, nope, I was wrong. The Angels beat Oakland 5-1. And Seattle beat Texas 4-2 in 10 innings. Everything else is under the lights tonight. Another one of the switch hitters in the Yankee lineup, third baseman Chase Headley, the batter. Castro's the runner at first, 2 down in the inning.
Popcorn, peanuts.
Outside, ball 2. And the big hole on the right side. More and more shifts, not just against lefties, against righties as well. This isn't a full-fledged shift, but you can see where Goins is, almost directly behind the bag. As Headley lifts a fly ball, medium depth right field, and the inning is over. To the bottom of the second in a scoreless game here at the Rogers Center. We'll see the 6, 7, 8 hitters for the Blue Jays. Michael Saunders Russell Martin, and then Justin Smoke in the lineup tonight will come up as well.
Enjoying those big comfy green chairs in the TD Comfort Zone are guests of TD. Meanwhile, the Jays Care Community Clubhouse is hosting folks from Holland Bloorview Rehabilitation Hospital. Welcome, everybody. Hope you enjoy tonight's ball game.
Hazel, thank you. We move to the bottom of the second inning. No score in the game. The Blue Jays will send up Michael Saunders, Russell Martin, and Justin Smoke against Michael Pineda. So for the first time tonight, Pineda will face a left-handed batter. The shift is on for the Yankees. Headley kind of hanging close in case Saunders were to think about pushing one or bunting one. He grounds one past the mound, but right into the shift. Torres makes the play for out number one.
Michael Pineda made his debut in 2011, and he made the All-Star team. First half of the season, he was 8-6, and he held the opponents to a 198 batting average. But then in the second half of that season, he struggled. He went just 1-4. Then he was traded to New York in January of 2012, and that's when the shoulder problems started.
Then a couple of years later, 2014, he was suspended, had a foreign substance strongly believed to be pine tar quite liberally on his person and easily visible. It became a big story, and he was out for 10 days, and then he got hurt while he was out and missed some time again. It's never just all come together for Pineda over the course of an entire season.
I'm just amazed he's still throwing a baseball. The injuries that he had in his shoulder, there's not a lot of people who have come back from those types of injuries.
Russell Martin trying to get going. 2 for 24, 11 strikeouts on the season. Breaking ball misses inside, ball 2. Martin got off to a slow start last year as well, and then of course really picked it up over the course of the season. Wound up with 23 home runs and 77 RBIs.
Well, he was doing the right thing, I thought, in last night's game, trying to hit the ball back through the middle or trying to hit the ball the other way. You mentioned that he started off slowly last year. It wasn't until he started making a conscious effort to hit the ball to right center field where that average started coming up.
You know, and everybody thinks these hitters don't understand what's going on. They know that they're struggling at the plate, and Russell said, man, I'm trying to get it going. He said, I struggled last year to start the season, and I know I ended up with good numbers, but I got to get it going. I think everybody in this lineup feels the same way except Bautista and Donaldson.
Because they're already hot. They don't need to do anything. That'll help it right there.
The slow-mo cam is brought to you by Rogers 4K TV. Get closer to the action with 4 times the resolution of HD alone. So Martin works Pineda for a 1-out walk, and now here's Justin Smoke. He's been kind of a forgotten man in the early going. Just 6 at-bats through the first 8 games. The Donaldson calf injury complicated things for the Blue Jays. Donaldson DH for a little bit, so Colabello and Smoke, because Encarnacion played first, Colabello and Smoke didn't have a chance to play for a few days. John Gibbons wants to keep everybody's bat as involved as possible, and between Smoke and Colabello, they'll look at matchups, how hard the pitcher throws head to head, is it a righty or lefty, and then make their decision. It's not a strict platoon.
You see, 14 of his 18 home runs last season came against right-handed pitching.
Shift on for the Yankees. Double play depth on the right side as Smoke takes inside, a ball and a strike.
I think it's going to be really interesting if there is a ground ball to the right side, how they're going to turn to, and that's why Headley, the second baseman, and the shortstop Torreyes were just talking about it right there.
So that's Torreyes, the shortstop, in the shortstop position. Headley, the third baseman, kind of where a second baseman would normally be. Castro, the second baseman, further to his left on the edge of the outfield grass. And again, every team does this differently. So Headley's the guy who's really in unfamiliar territory right now.
Yeah, the Blue Jays will keep Ryan Goins at second base for a double play situation, put Donaldson in the gap between the first baseman and the second baseman.
1-1. Swung on and missed.
Of course, Smoke knows Pineda very well. They were teammates in 2011 with Seattle, and Smoke was playing first base. Pineda, that was his rookie season, and obviously he knows what he's dealing with and understands it's a challenge to face this big righty.
He's going to throw him another breaking ball. You got to figure at some point.
Did right there, and he strikes him out. 2 down.
One of the pitchers that gives Justin Smoke some problems, righties that have a good breaking ball or a little bit more of a fastball, that time that good snapping slider finishes them off. Buck, you were talking about the ball that's at the thigh. By the time it gets to home plate, and if it's a breaking ball, it's out of the strike zone. That was a classic example of it right there.
Here's Ryan Goins playing second, batting ninth, hitting .250 on the season. 2 down in the inning now. And he starts him with a strike. Blue Jays have seen a pretty good Pineda so far here tonight. They've got some hard throwers in this rotation. Nathan Eovaldi, who the Blue Jays will see tomorrow night, and a young pitcher, 22-year-old Luis Severino, who they are very high on, both the stuff and the poise. CC Sabathia is at the back end of the rotation. He beat out Ivan Nova for the 5th spot in the rotation.
Yeah, opposite ends of the spectrum in its experience for sure. And CC Sabathia had a good outing his first time out. Severino is one of the guys that everybody asked for whenever the Yankees were in trade talks. Aaron Judge, the big outfielder, and Luis Severino, they were the targets.
To his credit, Brian Cashman, the general manager, said, this is the future of the Yankees, this young crop.
And they used to mortgage their future more than they're willing to now. They've got some huge contracts that will expire in the next year or two. Sabathia, A-Rod, Teixeira, Beltran. And then the Yankees are going to jump back in to the free agent market. Not that they're down now, but they're not spending. They didn't spend this winter. They don't want to give up their younger players. But boy, the free agent class of 2018 is a doozy, and the Yankees are going to be all over it.
Most general managers believe it's the best free agent class in history if those players that we will be eligible don't re-sign with their respective clubs.
It starts with Bryce Harper. Ground ball, foul.
Jose Fernandez of the Marlins, Manny Machado, there's a bunch of them in there that are terrific players, and they're game-changing players, guys that could turn your franchise around.
I think Josh Donaldson's on that list too, right? I think he's up after 18, I believe.
18.
Yep. He is signed through 17.
Do you really think those teams are going to let those guys go to free agency? Do you think Washington's going to let Bryce Harper go to free agency?
Do you think the Yankees are going to outbid Washington for Bryce Harper?
They probably could. They probably could.
I mean, Bryce Harper has spoken openly about wanting to break records and get paid a ton of money. Some people think it could be like a 10-year, $400 to $500 million contract. You guys were born too early. upstairs, a full count.
Well, and the thing that Harper has in his favor, he's a terrific player. He's got personality, and he's young. I mean, everything plays into his free agency.
He could sign 2 of those bad boys.
Yeah.
He's so young.
Same for Mike Trout.
Same with
He's going to have another go around.
Yep. So Teixeira comes off the bag. He'll play behind the runner Martin with 2 down and a full count. And Goins trying to get something started here for the Blue Jays. No score in the bottom of the second as Pineda comes set. Runner goes 3-2 and a swing and a ball ripped up the alley into deep right center. And it's going to get all the way to the wall, and this will score Martin with ease. An RBI double for Ryan Goins, and the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead.
Ryan came to spring training determined to drive the ball just a little bit more, hit the ball with a little bit more authority. He's going to stand upright at the plate, but he's going to get his hacks in this year. And once it got to 3-2, he can sit on a fastball. They didn't want to walk the number 9 hitter, and he got his fastball out over the plate and rips it up the alley in right field. Martin takes off on the pitch. He's going to score easily, and the Blue Jays strike first once again.
First RBI of the season for Goins. Back to the top of the order for Kevin Pillar. Pillar struck out his first time up. Pineda's got 3 strikeouts through an inning and 2/3, but he's also given up 3 hits, a walk, and now a run.
The whole key to that at bat to Ryan Goins was fighting back from 2 strikes and getting in a fastball count.
Breaking ball up, but it's fouled off. Pineda settling back onto the rubber as Pillar patiently waits for him. The lead out at second by Goins with 2 down. Wow, jam shot, 1 hopper to second, and the inning is over. Pineda got right into Pillar's kitchen, but Pineda's frustrated because Ryan Goins doubles in a run.
Center. The guys were talking earlier about switch Pat Venditti. He's a natural right-hander, but was encouraged by his father to start throwing with his left at the age of 3. Now he is certainly making things work out for him. He's back in the majors as the only ambidextrous pitcher in the league, and with a unique talent comes with very special equipment. Here is the glove Dan was referring to. It is a 6-fingered glove. It's like a regular glove, but with an extra thumb, and it is wider than most gloves in order for him to switch hands with ease. Venditti told me earlier that he's gotten used to all the extra attention he receives when he joins a new team, but then chuckles, Dan, and says the novelty usually wears off after a week or so.
Well, here's something you don't see. Look at the available pitchers. You got the lefties, you got the righties, and you got Venditti there half and half.
Reserved for the switch hitters, right, on the hitting card. Right in the middle.
There was a pitcher in the 90s. Greg Harris pitched in the 80s. Pitched for Boston. Pitched for Montreal too, didn't he? I believe. But
Mets.
And very occasionally, not even that, he pitched with both hands. But nobody's done it to the extent that Venditti has done it. And he was up with Oakland for about half the year last year. As that pitch by Ronald Torreyes is lined into center field, a base hit. Torreyes is a utility infielder for the Yankees, and with that hit, he's now 5 for 6 on the season.
That's a pretty good start.
Not bad.
Yeah. He's filling in for Didi Gregorius, who's a left-handed hitter. Joe Girardi said, you know what, I got to get these guys that aren't regulars some at-bats, and Didi's a left-handed hitter, so he gets the night off.
Joe does a great job of using his whole roster, doesn't he? Get everybody involved, make you feel like you're part of the team.
But it's really important right out of spring training, because you don't want those extra guys to sit and rust. If you don't give them at bats, they're going to lose all of that work they put in spring training.
The whole 6 weeks in spring training to go down the drain, and you got to be able to keep the guys fresh and have confidence that you're going to win ball games with them in there.
Romine shows bunt, but bunts it foul. So this part of the order, Joe Girardi playing a little small ball, or at least thinking about it. Torreyes has some speed. Romine, as we mentioned, is not a great hitter. He's a .201 lifetime hitter in the major leagues.
And the last thing that Joe Girardi wants to see right here is a ground ball to the infield. It's going to be a double play. So you can start the runner, or you can bunt him over, either one. J Happ's doing a good job by throwing over there. Romine is giving away his hand, faking like he is bunting, and that's why the third base coach is going to come down and talk to him. Think he might be taking it off?
Nope. I think he's bunting. He's swinging. Popped it up.
And back out of play down the right field line. So now, in all likelihood, the bunt will, of course, be off with a count 0-2 on Romine.
Romine, 1 home run, 11 RBIs for his career, and he's a 198 hitter. He hasn't played for a couple of years. A couple of years ago, he got into some games and played well. 2013, he hit that home run and drove in 10 in 60 games for the Yankees. That's the most he's ever played.
Don't even mess around here. Give him a sinker. Get that ground ball.
Blue Jays have gotten one double play behind Happ already, looking for another one here in the third inning. They lead 1-0 on an RBI double by Ryan Goins in the bottom of the second.
You know, I think it's easier. That last swing looked like he was trying to shoot the ball through the hole on the right side. The easier pitch to handle is the ball that's closer to your body. You don't have to go out and reach for it. I'd stay out there on him.
They wanted it up and in. It was up, but not as in as Happ would have liked, but it's fouled off again by Romine.
When I was catching and you had a guy that hadn't played for a while, I always thought you're better off throwing him breaking balls than fastballs, because he hadn't had any chance to work on his timing. Just a generality, but it's a pretty good thing to think about. He's up there hacking at fastballs.
Yeah, he wants fastballs, doesn't he?
Line to first. That's a double play.
Well, you can't guide it after you swing the bat. Romine did everything he could, trying to shoot it through that hole on the right side, and Justin Smoke is standing there. And this is an easy play for Smokey. The backhand and the touch on the bag for the double play.
So second double play turned by the Blue Jays tonight. 2 down, nobody on. Back to the top of the order for Ellsbury, who takes high ball 1. Ellsbury with a base hit to begin the ball game, and he was erased on the double play that Aaron Hicks hit into. And there's a strike from Happ. When you guys look at J Happ now compared to J Happ the Blue Jay the first time around, what differences do you see?
He can throw strikes when he needs to. When he got into trouble, it seemed like he grit his teeth just a little bit harder and try and throw the ball through the hitter and through the catcher, and all of a sudden he just lost it. And I mean, he could be cruising right along and all of a sudden lose it for an inning or so. Now I think he understands his body. I think he understands his mechanics, and he can get back into that strike zone.
Boy, Ellsbury's got the little looper over the infielders' heads down to a science right now. Let's get an update with Jamie Campbell. All right, Jamie, thank you. That's a team that's made a ton of changes since last year. And a very disappointing season a year ago. The win today just lifts them to 3-6. But they do get the win 4-2 over Texas. Here 1-0 Blue Jays, top of the third. Runner at first, 2 down, and Hicks is the batter.
We were just talking about J-Happ now than what we saw the first time through. Buck, do you put him in that category of left-handed pitchers that develop later in their career?
Yeah, it seems as though, especially for the bigger guys like J.F., he's 6'6", there are a lot of moving parts, and he's simplified his delivery. But we've seen it often with left-handed pitchers, and the first name that comes to my mind is Jamie Moyer, who did a terrific job. I think he pitched till he was 50, and he was able to make that adjustment when he turned 30 and really became a much better pitcher there. Jay's the same kind of guy right now because he trusts what he's doing, and he's refined his delivery, and now he believes that he can make adjustments.
He understands his body.
Hicks hits a bullet to deep center field. Pilar runs it down. That'll end the inning, and that will bring the heart of the order up for the Blue Jays as we go to the bottom of the third. It'll be Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, and Edwin Encarnacion. Don't have a lot of guys swinging the bat well right now, but Josh Donaldson certainly is the reigning MVP, and his buddy Jose Bautista, they have really carried the offense. Other guys have chipped in with a hit here, an RBI there, but these two guys are doing most of the heavy lifting right now.
And doesn't it take one guy, then two guys, and then maybe 3 or 4 other guys start to get hot, and the next thing you know, you got your whole team working together. Right now, really, it's just these two. You can see what they have done, average and an on-base plus their slugging average off the charts. It's only a matter of time before Edwin joins this group, and Russell Martin and Tulowitzki and the rest of them.
1-0 Blue Jays. Donaldson leads it off against Michael Pineda.
We had a very interesting talk with Josh Donaldson before the game about hitting in Tampa Bay. He was saying that he was having all kind of problems seeing the ball there.
As if the batter's eye, he couldn't put his finger on it, but something about the sight lines or his ability to see the ball different at the Trop than it is at other ballparks.
I just think the lighting is not as good there. I don't think it's as bright as it is in other ballparks, and whatever that might do to the backdrop, I think another factor is the quality of the pitchers you're facing.
That had something to do with it. How about playing outside all spring training under the sunlight, and all of a sudden you go indoors and basically play what feels like all night games? I think that might have had something to do with it. If you don't see the ball, you're going to have these types of at-bats.
Pineda, as he so often does, finishes an at-bat with a slider out of the zone, and that is strikeout number 4.
His strike percentage went up last year, and his strikeout percentage went up using that slider. That's a good one there, because it looks like a strike to Josh Donaldson, and by the time he swings the bat, it's in the dirt.
Second time he's gotten Donaldson tonight. As Tabby and Buck were saying in the first inning, he tried to sneak a fastball by Bautista. Couldn't do it, and Bautista lined it into center field for a base hit. Bautista's batting average up to .320. His on-base percentage, as you can see, is over .500 right now. He has been locked in from the moment the season began.
Well, and that's what's so special about Jose Bautista. He never deviates from his plan. He never gives up his strength, and his strength is hitting the fastball on the inside part of the plate. And he'll take those borderline pitches if it's not something that he's really sitting on. Of course, now with 2 strikes, he's got a battle, but he never gives up the ability to turn on that inside fastball.
I'm just amazed at his ability to take those borderline pitches, really tough pitches, and take them like he knows it's coming. You know what that is? It's just a lot of work in the video room, studying his at-bats against that pitcher, remembering what that guy tried to do with him with 2 strikes.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah.
See, there it is right there.
I mean, other Blue Jays have swung at sliders that have been 6-8 inches further out of the strike zone than that pitch.
Jose is so smart, and he'll know, hey, 2-2, he threw me a slider on this date or something like that, so he's looking for it.
I think he has tremendous pitch recognition, and it's kind of like Barry Bonds. We were talking about Bonds earlier. But Dusty Baker always talked about Bonds being able to identify ball or strike, swing or don't swing, 10 feet out of the pitcher's hand. And Bautista has that ability as well.
3-2 again. And a fastball line to center, but it's going to hang up long enough for Ellsbury to make the catch. Bautista has hit the ball right on the screws twice.
The all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
So 2 down in the inning now. The base is empty for Edwin Encarnacion, who had a base hit into left field his first time up. And again, see the pitch count climbing for Pineda at 57 right now as he works with 2 out in the 3rd inning. Although getting Tanaka out of there and getting the bullpen in for the Yankees wasn't a great recipe for success for the Blue Jays last night. Johnny Barbado, a raw rookie, pitched very well, picked up his first big league win. Chasen Shreve came in, got a couple of outs, and then it was Betances and Miller going the rest of the way. Yankees bullpen has been outstanding so far this year.
And it's going to get better.
Yeah. They got a kind of a finesse, soft tossing lefty coming back. Aroldis Chapman in his 102-mile-an-hour fastball will be back in early May. Encarnacion flies out to center, and the 2, 3, 4 hitters for the Blue Jays go in order in the bottom of the 3rd. 1-0 Toronto at the end of 3. Here comes the ultimate cleanup crew, brought to you by Home Hardware's exclusive line of the ultimate hard-hitting and tough-on-grind cleaning products.
The Blue Jays will host their inaugural Student Athlete Leadership Summit at Rogers Center. Students and educators will have the opportunity to learn and network with leading professionals in fields of sport management, health and wellness, and more. Limited space available. For more information, please visit bluejays.com/leadership summit. Dan.
Hazel, thank you. Top 4, 1-0 Blue Jays. Alex Rodriguez will lead it off against Jay Happ. A-Rod struck out in the first inning. He's hitting .158 so far on the season, 3 for 19. Yankees are off to a 4-2 start on the season. They made the postseason last year, of course. They were one of the wild card teams. They hosted Houston and lost to Houston. Dallas Keuchel, the eventual Cy Young Award winner last year, beat Masahiro Tanaka. And the Yankees, we talked about them trying to get younger and eventually get out from under some big contracts, but they're not in a rebuilding mode. You just can't ever fully be in rebuilding mode if you're the Yankees. So they're trying to remain a contender in the interim until they can reload.
Well, they got competition now in the Big Apple. Of course, the Mets with their great season. They went to the World Series last year, so the Yankees are always competing to be top dog in New York, and they can never go back to a full-blown rebuild.
Swing and a miss. Fastball by him as A-Rod strikes out for the second time tonight.
A battle for the back pages in New York City.
Always.
With them, Jay Happ with another strikeout. Second time that he got A-Rod. That time up and in with the fastball. Jay's going to challenge A-Rod and say, I think I can get my fastball by you.
Here's Mark Teixeira. Teixeira grounded out his first time up. I thought the series, I watched you guys do it when the Blue Jays were there last year, late August, maybe early September, right? Or somewhere around Labor Day, before or after. There was a rain out, then there was a doubleheader the next day. And it felt like Yankee Stadium was 3/4 Blue Jay fans for some of those games. And I know the weather was bad and Toronto people had traveled, but it was a kind of a surreal sight for at least somebody sitting at home watching on television. It must have been strange for you guys too, just to see hardly any Yankee fans at Yankee Stadium.
It was great to see.
Yeah.
It wasn't surreal. It was great to see. And Yankees obliged. The Blue Jays played great against them. I believe is that the series that Tulo got hurt in?
And I think that's the series where Stroman returned, so it'd be early September.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Stroman, of course, pitched well there. Tulowitzki got hurt there, and it was a very dominant series for the Blue Jays.
Ripped down the left field line, just foul.
But Yankee Stadium had always been a nightmare for the Blue Jays going in there. And last year, the Jays won 13 games, most they've ever won against New York in a single season. Stroman came back and made his return to the Blue Jays in Yankee Stadium and ended up going 4-0 for the month of September, and then carried it right into the postseason.
So Stroman sitting in between Marco Estrada and Aaron Sanchez. Sanchez pitched well last night. Gave up just 1 earned run in 6 innings. Second no decision for Sanchez. Stroman will pitch tomorrow night. The finale of this series.
Look at him. He's locked in, isn't he, on these Yankee hitters?
And a walk to Teixeira. So with 1 out, a man at first for Beltran. Pete Walker looking things over in the Blue Jay dugout in between John Gibbons and DeMarlo Hale. Beltran popped up to second his first time up. Last year his numbers were better from the other side of the plate as a left-handed hitter, but he bounces one between third and short into left field, a base hit, and the Yankees have 2 men aboard.
Yeah, that was a difficult walk for Jay Happ because you bring to the plate Beltran, who has 3 career home runs against Happ, and he's swinging the bat well right now. So now that 1-out walk, Teixeira has ended up at second. Beltran jumps on the first pitch. He sees the ball very well from Jay Happ, and that's why he's got those 3 career home runs.
You know what hurt in the Teixeira at bat is he was ahead of him, and it looked like he tried to reach back for a little something extra to finish him off, and that's when he loses his release point.
Castro with a bouncer left side. Donaldson going on to first, not in time. Ball just not hit sharply enough, and the end result is a fielder's choice.
Blue Jays did everything right defensively to try and turn that double play. The momentum took Donaldson into the play. It was a shorter throw to second base, but Castro, for a big guy, and I mean he is a big guy now, can get down that line. A good relay from Goins, and he's safe. He's across the bag.
So first and third, 2 down.
I had to do a double take when I saw Starlin Castro yesterday. How big he is, because I remember him when he first signed with the Chicago Cubs. He was like 6 foot, 165 pounds. He's put on maybe 60, 70 pounds since then.
Headley the batter with 2 on and 2 out. The Blue Jays up 1-0 in the top of the 4th here at Rogers Center. Swing and a miss, 0-1. Headley didn't have a great year last year. Really struggled on the defensive side of the ball. Made 23 errors on the season. He's in year 2 of a 4-year deal. Hit .259, 11 homers, and 62 RBIs last year for the Yankees. His big year was 2012, where seemingly out of nowhere, never approached these numbers before or since, he hit 31 home runs and led the National League with 115 RBIs for the San Diego Padres.
And then for good measure won a Gold Glove.
Yeah.
Terrific season.
Breaking ball ripped to short. Tulowitzki recovers and makes the play to end the inning. Terrific play by Tulowitzki hit short. Going to the bottom of the 4th. Still 1-0 Toronto.
Now flying to Boston 3 times daily. Go to WestJet.com to book your flight to cheer on the Blue Jays in Boston. WestJet, proud partner of the Toronto Blue Jays. Dan, still time to make plans to cheer them on before this weekend series.
Hazel, thank you. Back inside Rogers Center, we go to the bottom of the 4th. Dan Schulman and Pat Tabler, Buck Martinez. Blue Jays on a Ryan Goins RBI double in the 2nd have a 1-0 lead. Another close, low-scoring game. This has been the kind of game the Blue Jays have played so often so far this year. 3 of their 5 losses are by 1 run. Another by 2, the other by 3. Tulowitzki ground ball to the right side. Nice backhanded pick by Teixeira. 1 pitch and 1 out.
That's Teixeira, very aggressive. He came after that short hop, and it just shows you how he won 5 Gold Gloves. And when you're playing in a shift, Teixeira's got a lot of responsibility over there. He had nobody to back him up, but he was aggressive, came after it, and really kind of smothered it on that short hop.
He loves playing defense. He came up as a third baseman, he was telling me today, and then moved over after his first year to first base. He said the actions over at first base are a lot like third base. But he says, I love to play defense. And you can tell why on that play.
Michael Saunders shows bunt, takes a little bit low, ball one. The guys who are good defensively seem to be the guys who enjoy playing defense.
Absolutely.
Right. The guys who have trouble out there, they just want to swing the bat.
Yeah.
Or hide.
Yeah.
Please don't hit me the ball.
Yeah. Not saying he was a poor defender, because he wasn't, but Lou Piniella would be in left field during a game working on his swing, right, as his pitcher is throwing pitches, because Lou Piniella loved to hit.
I had to keep my eye on him when he was playing left field, because I couldn't give a sign until he was finished with his at-bat.
Did George Bell do some of that stuff too? What was George?
Not as much as Piniella. Lou was the best. And I remember one time in Kansas City where he went out to kick the fence, missed, and his shoe went out of the ballpark. We had to call time.
Yeah. 1-2 to Saunders, bounced in.
But yeah, defenders, you mentioned great defenders, and Smoke's a great defender, and he loves to play defense. And you think about some of the great first basemen, Keith Hernandez, Don Mattingly, those guys just love to take hits away from you.
They made it look easy, didn't they? Just soft hands, reactions. Blue Jays have a shortstop now who can play some defense now. I don't care what he's hitting.
Well, John Gibbons talked about that before the game. Even if Tulowitzki is struggling, it's such a vast improvement defensively from when Jose Reyes was with Toronto, or at least last year's version of Jose Reyes.
It might be 1-1 right now if he wasn't playing shortstop. That was a tricky play, and he made it look easy to end the fourth inning.
Well, and Tulowitzki, he really takes pride in his defense, but let me tell you something. He's a .297 career hitter, and he's not pleased with the way he's swung the bat since he's come to Toronto. We haven't seen the real Troy Tulowitzki yet at the plate.
Seen glimpses of it. First game here, he had a couple of doubles and a home run.
Russell Martin looking to get untracked here in week 2 of the season as well. 3-2 to Saunders. Good take as he checks the swing and draws the walk.
This Blue Jays Rogers 4K broadcast is powered by the Samsung 4K SUHD TV.
One on, one out for the Blue Jays in the bottom of the 4th, up 1-0. Russell Martin, the battery, walked and scored on the double by Goins back in the 2nd.
You know, one way to get a guy going is maybe create some holes on that infield. Maybe you start the runner here. Maybe play some hit and run with Russell Martin. Make him concentrate on that baseball a little bit more.
Pretty good hole on the right side right now, with Saunders being held on and Castro shading up the middle. Martin hits a lot of balls to right field. Hit one fairly well hit ball last night to right center as he takes down and away. Pittsburgh has gone on top of Detroit. Some interleague action. They lead 2-0 in the early going. That game actually now in the bottom of the 4th. And you see now that the Tigers actually scored a run in the top of the 4th. So 2-1 Pittsburgh going to the bottom of the 4th. Washington's up on Atlanta. Boy, it's going to be a long year for the Braves. And they're in full-fledged rebuild mode. They've got a new ballpark coming in next year. I mean, there is a plan, but it's going to be a long season for the Braves. Well, if there's something on, this might be the pitch, right? 2-1.
2-1. They like to use the hit and run on this play.
Not going. Fouled back. 2-2. Martin checking out the signs from Luis Rivera, third base coach. 1 run, 3 hits for the Blue Jays. No runs, 4 hits for the Yankees. 3-2 win for the Yankees last night. The series concludes tomorrow night. Nathan Eovaldi and Marcus Stroman. Full count.
Blue Jays now have really identified that slider when it's about thigh high and they lay off. Early in the game they were chasing it, and Pineda was able to get a couple of quick strikeouts, but they talk a lot and say, hey, if you see that spin and it's down, take it, because it's going to be a ball.
That sounds like an easier said than done kind of thing.
Pass that information on down the line.
Runner is going. Swing and a miss by Martin. Throw down and out at second is Saunders. Strike him out, throw him out. Inning ending double play. End of 4 at Rogers Center. Blue Jays 1 and the Yankees nothing. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Jamie Campbell and Greg Zaun in the Samsung broadcast studio.
Honda Super Camps across Canada. Learn techniques from former Blue Jays such as Roberto Alomar, Devon White, Lloyd Mosby, Jesse Barfield, and Dwayne Ward. Register now at bluejays.com/camps.
We go top 5 here at Rogers Center. Fans of all ages here cheering on the Blue Jays, who lead 1-0. Jay Happ through 4 innings has given up 4 hits. He's walked a couple, struck out a couple, and had 2 double plays behind him. He'll face Ronald Torreyes, who had a base hit his first time up. Torreyes is 23 years of age and has played in seven different major league organizations, including the Blue Jays organization. He was acquired by Toronto from Houston for cash in May of last year. That's a fair ball, man. Nobody knows how to get this guy out right now. That's going to be a double for Torreyes, who is 2 for 2 tonight and 6 for 7 this season. This is a guy who only had 6 major league at-bats in his life before this year. That was with the Dodgers, who, by the way, acquired him from the Blue Jays for cash 4 weeks after the Blue Jays acquired him last year.
Bounces this ball by Donaldson, Josh, in just a little bit, guarding against the bunt. Did Joe DiMaggio start his Yankee career like that? 6 for 7? I don't think so.
Wally Pipp did.
Here's Austin Romine. Will he be bunting? He will not. Blocked by Martin. John Gibbons said after the game last night that he thought Russell Martin did as good a job as he's ever seen a catcher do, blocking pitches in the dirt, because Aaron Sanchez, well, Martin earned his money last night.
Yeah, I can remember one that hit clearly in the left-handed hitter's batter's box, and he scooped it and kept it in front of him, and he was very athletic, obviously, but he had his hands full last night. Not only catching it, but trying to massage the umpire's strike zone.
Right.
Sanchez was not getting that call on that high fastball. That was a strike, and Russell had to do his best job of diplomacy, trying to encourage the umpire that it was a strike.
But it worked. Worked later in the ball game. Started getting those calls again.
Happ checks the runner, and the 2-0 is lined into center field, a base hit. Torreyes will be held at third. He needed to make sure that ball got through. So it's Yankees on the corners with nobody out.
Well, what a difference it makes when your 8-9 hitters get on base, and Blue Jays have seen that for the last couple of years, but Austin Romine rips that fastball into center field. Look at Pilar. He comes up throwing and throws a one-hop strike to the cutoff man, just really giving his first baseman an opportunity to manage the base runners. And now Jay Happ's got to deal with the top of the order.
And a hot hitter, too.
Jacoby Ellsbury, who's got the soft liner or bloop down to a science. He's had 3 of them in the 2 games here in this series, and has raised his average to 300 on the season. 2 for 2 tonight. First and third, nobody out. The Yankees threatening here in the 5th. Fouled back.
Yeah, you hit the ball like that for a couple of days, and the Blue Jays dugout will be hollering, "Hey, can I read that newspaper when you're done with it?" But he's a smart hitter right now. He's certainly dumping them in there where there's no defenders.
Torreyes at third, Romine at first, and a late swing and a foul off by Ellsbury. The count is 0-2. Already 2 double plays turned by the Blue Jays tonight. They give up a run to turn 2 again here in this situation.
They'd rather have a strikeout, and Happ has that ability.
The pitch, down and away, ball 1.
Jay's not necessarily a power strikeout pitcher, but he understands when you need to go for a strikeout, and now's the time. Probably up more than down.
And that's the pitch that hitters don't pick up against Jay Happ, that invisible up in the strike zone.
2-2.
It looks so inviting. You think you can hit it 9 miles. You either pop it up or swing right through it. Foul it back.
And Ellsbury fights it off to earn another pitch.
He was trying to serve that one into left field. Yeah. 2-strike approach, short and quick. Just wait until you see it, and then see if you can't find it off and dump it in fair somewhere.
When healthy, this guy can be quite a force. And some terrific years in a Boston uniform, big stolen base numbers. One year hit 32 home runs. Popped it up, but he didn't quite get it over the infield here. Play for Donaldson, 1 down.
Josh Donaldson is so active at third base. He's always thinking about ways to help his ball club defensively. He was actually breaking over towards third base on that pitch for a possible pop out and a pickoff. You could see him always in the thinking. Right now he's telling the infield to pay attention to Russell Martin, what they're going to do with the ball just in case they try and start that runner at first base.
Aaron Hicks grounded into a double play in the first and a fly ball to center in the third.
You know, guys, this is what I was talking about with Donaldson. Watch him over there at third base. He's playing off the line. He's getting signs to Russell Martin. There's 2 strikes on the batter. Watch him break on the pitch just to keep that runner a little bit closer to third base. Then he has to regroup and get in line to make that catch. But he's always thinking. He's always trying to be 1 step ahead of the offense.
Here's the 0-1. Throw down to third, but the runner is back. Again, a play on between Donaldson and Martin.
We saw it a couple of times last year where Martin and Donaldson were on the same page and they picked off a couple of tough runners at third base. Drop that leg down there and block him off of the base. This time, even with a righty in there, right-handed batter tries to slip in behind him.
And a ground ball to third. Donaldson juggled it, taking it out of his glove. Could not try for 2. Takes the sure out at first, and the run will come in to tie the game.
It's going to be a tough double play. Hicks runs well, and Donaldson, in his haste to get the ball to second quickly, lost the grip on it. I don't know if he got mid-stride and thought, you know what, I might come home. I think he was thinking about that.
I do too, because they can't turn a double play on this one. They dropped the ball in the exchange, but I was thinking he might come home because you can't turn two. But he alertly finishes off the play over at first.
So the ground out produces a run, ties the game at 1. Runner at second, 2 down for Alex Rodriguez, who has struck out twice tonight. I'll tell you that there's more action at Fenway right now. The Red Sox have tied it up on a 2-run double by Xander Bogaerts, 2-2 with Baltimore in the third. As A-Rod takes inside ball 1. A run in the second for the Blue Jays. The Yankees tying it here in the fifth. And the 1-0. Breaking ball for a strike, 1-1.
There's been a lot of talk about Rodriguez and how he's had so much success here at Rogers Center. But going back to his last home run, he hit that in August of 2013. He's just 7 for 54.
Here in this ballpark. I mean, he was a given that he would hit a home run, at least one, every series. Jay got him last time with a fastball up over his hands. Said, I can beat you.
You think A-Rod's going to see a steady diet of fastballs at the belt or above this year?
Yeah, I think you got to make him adjust to that pitch. You're doing him a favor if you pitch him out over the plate.
Missed down and in, ball 3.
He's got to cheat to get to the fastball now, especially anything 93 and above. And by cheating to the fastball, that means you're going to open up that front side and just take a shot and hope you get a fastball on the inner half.
Joe Girardi and his bench coach Rob Thompson looking on from the Yankee dugout.
Jay Happ stepped off, and Russell Martin thought, you know what, I better talk about this pitch right now. You got Teixeira on deck. It's a 3-1 count. And Rodriguez now can look for a fastball inside, so you might want to cross him up and try something different. I think that's why Russell chose to go to the mound.
As a catcher, what percentage of these discussions did you win, and what percentage of these discussions did the pitcher win?
Well, you'd like to think that you win more of them because you're using the experience of catching a particular guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, we probably are a little bit less emotional than the pitcher.
Right. 3-1. Way up in the air to shallow right field. Inning over. But the Yankees tie it up. Blue Jays coming up in the bottom of the fifth in a 1-1 game. So the marathon, the grind that is the Stanley Cup playoffs begins tonight. NBA playoffs starting on the weekend, and of course baseball just getting underway here in April. The Blue Jays and Yankees tied at 1. Michael Pineda on the mound as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. He'll face Justin Smoke, Ryan Goins, and Kevin Pillar. Yankees out hitting the Blue Jays, as you can see, 6-3. The Yankees have left 5 men on, the Blue Jays 3. Smoke in his 2nd year with the Blue Jays last year hit 18 home runs and drove in 59 runs in just 296 at bats. And it wasn't again a strict platoon. There were times when with he and Colabello, one was at first, one was DHing, and of course there were times when Colabello was in left field a little bit in the middle of the season, so often both of them were in the lineup. But it was a very productive combination.
There was also 4 to 6 weeks that Jose Bautista was on the disabled list with a shoulder problem, and Edwin had to play some first base because Jose was DHing, and that cut into the playing time of both Smoke and Colabello last year.
Colabello hit .321, 15 homers. Smoke hit just .226, but again productive, 18 home runs, 59 RBIs. Good glove.
They will pick and choose the times to use Justin this year. This is a good spot for him.
Bautista might have a situation with a contact lens or something in his eye. Shift on against Smoke. 3-1 the count. And the pitch down and in, ball 4. And you can see Pineda, his body language sometimes, he gets easily frustrated. Even if a guy will foul off a tough pitch, sometimes you can see visible frustration on his face.
3 walks now, and the Blue Jays have managed just 3 hits, but Pineda's getting to the point where you're right, the frustration creeps in, and that's when he makes a mistake. He'll hang a breaking ball, somebody will knock it out of the yard, and in his first start against Houston, he gave up 3 home runs, 2 to Carlos Correa.
Here's Ryan Goins. Goins driving in the Blue Jays run tonight on an RBI double back in the 2nd that scored Russell Martin. Lined it to right center. Now he hits the ball well to left field. This has some carry on it, and it's off the wall on the fly. Smoke into 3rd. Goins into 2nd with his 2nd double of the night.
And there's the mistake you were talking about. Ryan Goins hit a double last time on a fastball. He wasn't waiting around for a 3-1 fastball. He jumps on the first one. Justin Smoke did some excellent base running here. He read this thing right off the bat. The outfield playing very shallow against Goins, and he was off on the crack of the bat, and he makes it to 3rd base on that double over the head of the left fielder. Watch Smokey at first base. He reads it and he gets out there. Never stops stride. And he makes it without a throw. Stand-up double. The Blue Jays are in business.
So 2nd and 3rd, nobody out as they try to reclaim the lead that they gave up when the Yankees tied the game in the top half of this inning. Leadoff hitter Kevin Pillar, a strikeout and a ground out so far tonight. Even with a bag at the corners, backed up the middle. And a foul off by Pillar.
Pillar was looking fastball and got a breaking ball, and you have to be a little more selective here and change your sights. All you need is a ball to the outfield at a minimum. Even a ground ball up the middle will score a run.
If you make it out, you're looking for a productive out. And productive, get that runner in, get him over. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. Look to hit the ball the other way.
Backhanded pick in the dirt by Romine.
You can see Pineda trying to generate velocity, and he's come out of his delivery this inning a bit.
And this has often been the story for Pineda. You can watch him pitch and say, man, this guy's got good stuff. And at the end of the night, sometimes dominant, but at the end of the night, they nick him here, they nick him there, and he gives up a little bit more than you would expect. Now, so far, just a run in, but in a situation here, make it 2 runs in. Low throw, and in and out of the glove of Teixeira. And that will also allow Goins to scamper to 3rd.
Boy, there's a great example of a base runner not assuming anything. Smoke's got to go on contact, and he makes a good read. But Ryan Goins saw the throw across the diamond. He was at second base, kept his eye on the fly to the baseball. Once he saw it in the dirt, he bounced off second and moves up when it kicks out of the glove.
And didn't give up on the play. Didn't assume anything. This ball was knocked back towards home plate by Teixeira, the first baseman. That's going to allow him to pick up a very valuable 90 feet for the Blue Jays. This is a productive at bat as he's going to score the run. Watch him there at second base. He doesn't take a play off. He finishes it. In football, they say play to the whistle. He played all the way to the end of that play.
So that's E6 and an RBI on the play, though, because even had the play been made at first, Smoke would have come in to score. Now a roller to short. Could be two, and it is on the big stretch by Teixeira, but another run will come in to score as Goins crosses home plate, and that makes it 3-1. No RBI on the play, though, as Donaldson grounds into the double play.
Leadoff walks. They'll come around and bite you every single time. Smoke took the leadoff walk. Goins hit a double. Ballard got the RBI, and Donaldson hits into a double play, and a run comes in to score, and the Blue Jays have the lead on Pineda.
Boy, he was sprinting down that line right there. Donaldson wanting that RBI, but Pilar, the runner at first base, couldn't help out his teammate to try and take out that defender at second base.
So 2 down, nobody on, and a swing and a miss by Jose Bautista, who has singled and flied out tonight. Blue Jays still with just 4 hits in this game, but they've got a 3-1 lead now in the bottom of the 5th. That error was a key. And Goins with a couple of doubles. He has scored a run and driven in a run tonight for the Blue Jays.
It's that valuable 90 feet that he picked up to get that run in.
Yep.
He'd be standing at third base with 2 outs now if he didn't. Hidden plays within a baseball game. I mean, you can watch it and see how it comes out, especially I think early in the season, especially when you're in your division like the Blue Jays are going to be over the next couple of weeks.
Another ground ball to short. Big hop for Torreyes, inning over. But a walk, a double, and an error contribute to a couple of runs, and the Blue Jays have a 3-1 lead at the end of 5. Is Pat Tabler, Hazel May, Jamie Campbell, Greg Zahn, and a cast of thousands with you here at the ballpark as the Yankees come up. Blue Jays leading 3-1. A look, if they're the Yankees, they're spending money. That's always been the case. That will always be the case. They have the 2nd highest payroll in baseball. The Dodgers spend more than they do. But again, Sabathia, Teixeira, Rodriguez, Beltran all figure to be off the payroll either by the end of this year or next year. A-Rod signed through this year. Teixeira and Beltran, I'm sorry, A-Rod through next year. Teixeira, Beltran this year. Sabathia has a vesting option that could lock in his contract for next year, basically if he doesn't suffer a shoulder injury this year.
Well, the key to that whole chart is the fact they're all over 32 years old. And that's the thing. You lock in these guys to multi-year contracts, and you're going to deal with some bad years at the back end of those deals.
Teixeira grounds out. Well, in the connection to the Blue Jays, if you will, you've got a 35-year-old Bautista and a 33-year-old Encarnacion, both in the final year of their contracts. They want extensions. The Blue Jays have not signed either one of them to an extension yet, but the Blue Jays already have Martin signed to a long-term deal. Tulowitzki signed to a long-term deal. You know, I think teams look at what the Phillies went through in the last couple of years too. When they held on to Utley and Rollins and some of their key guys.
Howard.
Yep, they still have Ryan Howard. When they held on to those guys. There's a base hit up the middle for Beltran. He's 2 for 3. So, you know, on the fan side, it's, well, sign him. And on management side, it may be, well, does this make sense? How many older guys making big money can you have on one team at one time?
What you need to do, and what the Yankees did in their heyday in the mid-90s, was they had a steady crop of players from their farm system. If you remember what they referred to as the core of 4, they were all homegrown players, and the Blue Jays have a little bit of that right now. But they have to continue to rebuild their farm system, because when you have homegrown players on your team, they're cheap.
All one has to do is look at the St. Louis Cardinals. Look at the great players that they have lost over the years, and they continue to win. Why? Because they've got players coming up through the farm system. Albert Pujols leaving. I never thought I'd see the day that he would leave the Cardinals.
Big swing and a miss by Castro, and it's 0-2. Activity now with the Blue Jays pen. Rookie right-hander Joe Biagini is up. John Gibbons showing some confidence in the Rule 5 pickup. Might put him in a game in which there's a narrow lead for Toronto.
Yeah, and you know what? He has done this before. You just got to find out what you have. You remember at the start of last season, the Blue Jays had 6 rookies on their team. And they had Castro in the bullpen, Osuna in the bullpen. They had Daniel Norris in the rotation. And he said, we got to find out what we have. And they found out they didn't have too much, which forced them into that mid-season trade mode.
0-2 in the dirt, and blocked by Martin nicely in the batter's box, basically right in front of Castro, to keep it from going to the backstop.
Boy, that's another nice play by Martin. Throw a breaking ball out in front of home plate. It's liable to bounce anywhere. Slide over, get any part of your body on that baseball, keep it in front of you.
Keeps the double play in order. 1 ball, 2 strikes, runner at first, 1 out. Coming in. Late call, but the call that goes the Jays' way as Happ freezes Castro for out number 2.
He's got that ability to locate that fastball, and he had thrown several pitches away. He bounced the previous pitch in the dirt, and then a little cut fastball catches the inside corner. Chad Fairchild, the home plate umpire, a very deliberate call, but I'm sure verbally he announced it to the batter and to the catcher right away.
So 2 down now for Chase Headley, who takes a strike. Happ nearing 100 pitches, and that's why, among the reasons why there's activity in the pen. Joe Biagini is up, and he's got some company right now out of that Blue Jays pen. And it's the pitcher we were talking about a couple of innings ago. His contract just purchased today. Pat Venditti, the ambidextrous pitcher who is warming up as a lefty. And the Blue Jays expect to use him more as a lefty than a righty. So John Gibbons is saying, okay, if I bring him in here, they might bring up this guy or that guy. They want to have Venditti pitch to his strength when they can. And really the number one thing you want to do with Venditti is have him avoid switch hitters, because then he doesn't have the advantage. The next best option is him as a lefty facing a lefty. So he could be getting up for Ellsbury if it were to get that far, 3 batters away. It's not a guy the Yankees will take out for a pinch hitter, so the Blue Jays know that Venditti will have that platoon advantage. I think it's fascinating. I feel badly for the guy. because if he had a nickel for every time somebody asked him about this, he wouldn't have to play baseball. He could have retired by now.
He doesn't feel bad about answering the questions. He's very proud, and he works hard at it. He was one of the hardest workers all spring long. And the interesting thing is that he has to throw bullpen sessions from both sides each day. So he puts in twice the work that a regular pitcher will.
It reminds me, it's a different situation, but Billy Wagner, who saved, I believe, almost 400 games in his career, was a righty as a kid. Broke his arm as a 10-year-old, I think playing football, and had nothing to do all summer, so he started throwing with his left hand. Made the majors as a lefty, threw about 1,000,000 miles an hour, and saved hundreds of games. It's crazy.
And he's on the cusp of going into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Got a chance, real good chance.
Pete Walker out to talk with Jay Happ. Somebody's got to try to figure out a way to get Ronald Torreyes out. The rookie shortstop is 2 for 2 tonight and 6 for 7 on the season for the Yankees.
Well, nothing against Torreyes, but you see him in this lineup with all these big bats. You say, I got to get this guy out. You throw him a fastball and he jumps all over it. To his credit, he's not missing those pitches that he's getting in the zone.
I got a question for you. If they bring in the right-hander, they had Biagini up. I thought maybe if Jay couldn't get through this right here, they bring in the right-hander. You think Joe Girardi would have pinch hit for him? Guy's hitting 800. As Venditti is now throwing right-handed.
This is great. I mean, this is really great. Biagini's not throwing, so there are 2 relievers warming up, and they're both Pat Venditti. This is unusual. Like this. Now he did it last year for Oakland, but it's a very unusual. He just switched again.
Well, he's ready as a left-hander, and he's not quite ready as a right-hander. So you can go down there and throw. He doesn't have to decide which arm he's going to throw with until he gets onto the rubber.
Right.
So he can be warmed up on both sides, and you say, well, you got to assume that he's coming into the game as a left-handed pitcher if you're Joe Girardi.
But he could come in as a righty to face Romine, although then Joe Girardi probably goes to his bench. This is going to get very interesting. 0-2 and a swing and a miss to get Torreyes to end the inning. 2 men left on. Still 3-1 Blue Jays.
Sportsnet. Presented by the all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
Back in Toronto, Dan Shulman to Buck Martinez, Pat Tabler. Jay Happ gets out of a 2-on-2-out situation. And the Blue Jays still lead 3-1 as they come up here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Pineda still on the mound for the Yankees. And will face the middle of the Blue Jay lineup at Encarnacion, Tulowitzki and Saunders. Jay Happ still sitting alongside Russell Martin. So we were talking between innings. This one could go a number of different ways. Happ still in the game as he sits in the dugout. We'll have to wait and see. Venditti's not throwing anymore. Brett Cecil is now up in the Blue Jays pen. Encarnacion tonight, a base hit and a fly ball. And he takes right at the bottom of the strike zone to even it up at 1-1. Meanwhile, activity in the Yankees pen. Right-hander Kirby Yates is up. Pineda is at 90 pitches right now as he works in the 6th inning. The Yankees expect their bullpen to work hard and to do great this year, and that's even before Chapman comes back. And Joe Girardi knows Sabathia is not going to give them a lot of innings. Pineda historically has not given them that many innings. Tanaka right now looks like a 5 to 6 inning guy for the most part, as Encarnacion is called out on strikes.
You can see Encarnacion telling the home plate umpire it was down. And Bautista's backing him up from the dugout. Chad Fairchild called that big breaking ball a strike. It would look like it may have caught the bottom of the zone, but it certainly looked down. No check swing. He checked indeed, but it was called the strike.
And there's one of the knees, a called strike on Troy Tulowitzki. So that's 6 strikeouts now for Pineda. Encarnacion still unhappy. Shift on against Tulowitzki, who's grounded out to the right side both times to Teixeira. Now he pops one up at a shallow left. Torreyes, the shortstop, makes the catch. 2 down.
Well, Pineda certainly has bounced back after a rocky first start, and we talked about his shoulder problems. It's rare that a pitcher can come back from shoulder surgery and be as effective as Pineda has been, but there have been some pretty good pitchers that have gone through it, including Chris Carpenter, who started his career here. He had shoulder problems. Kurt Schilling, your partner at ESPN, he had shoulder problems and pitched terrific the rest of his career, but more often than not, shoulder problems will really kind of cut your career short. Trevor Hoffman, he had shoulder surgery early in his career, and he continued to be a record-setting closer.
This guy is still a power pitcher. Remember when we saw him when he first came up? I mean, he was throwing BBs when he was with the Seattle Mariners. Shoulder problems and power pitchers, that's not a good combination.
As much as Tommy John is the one that everybody fears and everybody talks about, you get the feeling that if pitchers had to choose one or the other, they would take Tommy John, because the track record of being able to come back successfully after that surgery seems better than it is with shoulder problems, serious shoulder problems.
Well, you have so many moving parts in your shoulder, smaller muscles, and you've got the labrum. You've got to make sure it stays intact with your elbow. If you're diligent in your rehab, chances are going to be pretty good that you can come back and continue your career.
Give me an elbow over a shoulder. If I have to have an injury, rotator cuff, no. I think you put more stress on your shoulder.
2-2 to Saunders, sent foul down the left field line out of play. Saunders with a ground out and a walk tonight, hitting .217 so far on the season. Blue Jays with just 4 hits tonight, but they do have a 3-1 lead. 2 of the 4 hits, doubles by Ryan Goins. He's been in the middle of both rallies tonight. Jam shot, and that's going to be a fair ball. Crossing up the shift, on his way to second, and in there. How about that?
Well, that will make up for some of those line drives that are going to get caught during the summer. I don't know why more players can't do that. If you see one defender on one side of the infield, why not take a shot? He is totally fooled by that slider on the inside part of the plate, but he's going to be rewarded with a double. Half swing, just keep it fair. Chase Headley was sprinting after that ball once he realized it was going to get by him, trying to keep Saunders at first base, but to no avail.
Michael will certainly take the double, but I don't think he wants to recreate the swing.
No. Jacoby going over some charts.
Probably going over the next guy down in that bullpen.
Russell Martin, the batter, has walked and scored and struck out. Runner in scoring position with 2 down here in the 6th inning. High strike, 0-1.
Boy, a base hit right here will do wonders for Russell Martin, won't it? He has struggled this year, especially with runners in scoring position. A 2-out base hit right here.
There's a nasty slider from Pineda. First one was kind of top to bottom. That one had a lot of movement down and away. Martin just trying to get into battle mode here with a 2-strike count. And before that happens, Romine on his way out to the mound.
Yankees had been scoring runs before they came into Rogers Center, and Blue Jays have kind of held them in check. But both of these teams, they were first and second in runs scored last year, and so far this season, Blue Jays haven't been able to match the Yankees in run production.
A look back by Pineda, and the 0-2, and a high fastball is fouled back. What'd you see in that swing, Tabby?
Looked like he's trying to slow his swing down just a little bit, Russell, so he can stay on the ball just a little bit longer. The 0-1 swing was all out. He was going for everything. This is a better 2-strike approach right here.
Romine makes it look pretty smooth back there sometimes on those pitches in the dirt.
Well, when you call a slider, the only place you're going to get beat is to the right. So you have to really kind of anticipate that ball in the dirt to your right, and it is an easy play really if you anticipate it, because it skips very true, especially the hard slider.
The 1-2, and a fastball grounded to short. Torres up with it and on to first in time to end the inning. End of 6 at Rogers Center. Blue Jays still leading 3-1. Left-hander Brett Cecil coming out of the bullpen. Undefeated on the season right now at 7-0, but trailing Boston. The Blue Jays bring Brett Cecil out of the bullpen. It has been a struggle. There's no denying that for Cecil so far on the young season. A couple of losses. He's got knocked around a little bit after having such a great season last year, especially in the second half of the year.
Yeah, you need to get him right back on the mound and get him right. Obviously, he's 0-2 early in this season, but you need him. He's a big part of your ball club, and the more you can get him out there and get him straightened out, the better off you're going to be.
He was charged with the loss in last night's ball game, so you're right. Get him right back out there.
He'll face Austin Romine to begin the inning, who fouls one back below us on the first pitch.
I think the more that Brett throws and Storen throws, Osuna, the stronger that arm's going to get. And as the season wears on, you're going to start to see him snap off some of those breaking balls that we saw last year that were totally unhittable. Right now, he just doesn't have that snap on his breaking ball.
A strike, 0-2. Drew Storen is up in the pen, not throwing at the moment, but standing on the mound. As the Yankees come up here in the 7th inning, there's a breaking ball that might have gotten a piece of Russell Martin. It's a thankless job, isn't it?
It pays well.
Yeah. But it hurts.
It pays well.
His job paid well too, and it didn't hurt as much.
It didn't hurt as much. And there aren't as many good catchers around baseball, so when you've got a good one who can do things like this, Russell Martin slices over right off the left bicep. You pay him. Now it looks like Brett's trying to create that spin on the breaking ball, and he's overthrowing it. And he's putting a beating on his catcher.
That one was about 3 feet in front of home plate, and that, different than the slider, is unpredictable. You don't know where the curveball is going to bounce. It'll bounce straight up, might stay down in the dirt. Slider's much more predictable in trying to block that curveball.
2-2. And Cecil strikes out Romine. Well, another good performance by a starting pitcher for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, the starting pitching has been pretty good a couple times through the rotation. Jay Happ, he'll take this every time out. 6 innings, 7 hits, an earned run. He walked 3. He's not happy about that. But he got a couple of big strikeouts in the 6th, and a big strikeout of Torres to end the inning. Maybe the biggest pitch of the night.
Now Ellsbury, the leadoff hitter, takes inside ball 1. Ellsbury 2 for 3. 1 out, nobody on. The Yankees batting in the 7th, trailing 3-1 in the middle game of this 3-game series. We'll have tomorrow's for you as well, as Nathan Eovaldi opposes Marcus Stroman, who will make his 3rd start of the season. Then it's off to Fenway Park for a 4-game wraparound series. The guys on either side of Stroman, Estrada and Dickey, will both start in that series in Boston. This guy throws hard.
Eovaldi.
Yeah.
He'll throw 100. And he's got a complement of pitches to go with it as well.
His off-speed pitches, the breaking ball. That's it's not a day at the beach with that guy.
If everything goes right, that's always a big if for a baseball team. They've got a chance to have a pretty good rotation. Severino continues. Yeah, they got a lot of ifs.
A lot of ifs. If Tanaka's elbow holds up, if Pineda's shoulder holds up, if CC Sabathia can keep his knees underneath him. He's been dealing with those knee problems, and what is Severino going to be? He's only 22. Eovaldi had arm problems in September last year, so there's a lot of ifs over there.
2-2 in the air to left center field. Playable for Pilar. 2 down.
Save during the homeowner sale only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
So Brett Cecil has retired the first 2 batters here in the 7th inning and now faces the left fielder Aaron Hicks. Hicks 0 for 3 on the night. Swing and a miss, and a good sharp breaking ball there.
I think each time out we're going to see Brett Cecil just a little bit sharper. Early on this year, the breaking ball really hasn't done a whole lot for him. Such a big pitch for him last year. I mean, he came up with so many big strikeouts for the Blue Jays late in ball games.
And the Blue Jays hoping that with Cecil, Storen, and Osuna, they've got pretty much a lockdown trio at the end of the bullpen. That's the trend these days. The Yankees have loaded up. The Royals, of course, a great bullpen. The Red Sox tried to add to theirs by bringing in Craig Kimbrell and Carson Smith, who's on the DL right now. More and more teams are saying, never mind, you can't have too much pitching. They're saying you can't have too many relievers, too many guys who can shut you down. Teams are looking at that 6th and 7th inning much differently than they used to.
Power pitchers.
Yep.
That's what they're looking for at the back end.
Right on the edge, 2-2.
I would prefer my bullpen give me 6 outs and not 12.
Right.
I think they have a better chance of staying strong, effective, longer if you minimize the number of those 4-inning outings.
So what are you saying? Starter. Hit them deeper into the ball game.
The 2-2 just missed. Alex Rodriguez on deck should the inning continue. And he would represent the tying runs. The Blue Jays do not want to see him, even though he's 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts in this game. Make a mistake, he can still hit it a long way. Full count pitch. And a ground ball for Tulowitzki. Inning over. Brett Cecil with a 3-up, 3-down 7th, and the Blue Jays still have a 3-1 lead. Welcome back to Rogers Center as we bring you back inside the ballpark. The Blue Jays with a 3-1 lead as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. And Joe Girardi has gone to his bullpen after 6 innings out of Michael Pineda, in which he gave up 3 runs, 2 earned. Out of the bullpen comes right-hander Kirby Yates.
We saw Kirby Yates a couple of years ago with the Tampa Bay Rays. He got all those good arms. He's been around for a while. He's got a decent fastball. There are his numbers in just 2 games this season. Decent slider, and he'll be one of those bridge type of pitchers, I guess you will, for the New York Yankees as they try to get to the back end of the bullpen.
The first batter that he will face is Justin Smoak. Smoak has struck out and walked and scored. He'll be followed by Ryan Goins, who has been the hitting star for the Blue Jays tonight, and then Kevin Pillar. Smoak will take a strike.
Blue Jays just haven't been able to score in the late innings, and they need to add some runs here. They're up by 2, and now they're where they want to be in their bullpen, but at the same time, you'd like to have a little cushion.
They haven't been hitting the home runs as frequent as they did last year, and that's a big part of it. I mean, they've been having to play small ball.
John Gibbons doesn't seem all that concerned about the offense. He feels they've got enough of a track record, and they did so well last year that's going to come around.
What was he saying? That we just got too many guys who are ice cold right now, and all it takes is one guy to get hot, and then it starts to spread up and down that lineup.
The 2-1 to Smoke. Breaking ball and a swing and a miss. 2-2.
Yeah, they got a pretty good book on Smoke. They're going to throw that breaking ball down and into him and try to get him swing over the top of it, and then you can crowd him with the fastball upstairs. Larry Rothschild in the middle of those three coaches there. He's the pitching coach and a good one.
Been around a long time.
First manager of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Up and in, almost hit him. Red Sox are leading the Orioles 4-2, top of the 5th at Fenway. The Rays are trailing Cleveland 3-0, top of the 8th at the Trop. And a swing and a miss, and Smoke is gone, 1 down. Drive of the game is brought to you by the all-new Honda Civic, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
We haven't had a home run, but we've had a couple of doubles. Let's take a look at it. 3-1 fastball to Ryan Goins. He can sell out, and he does. Drives this ball to right field, knocks it in the first run of the game, and then he doesn't wait around. This time throwing some opposite field power off the wall. There are drives of the game. A couple of doubles by Ryan Goins.
Very productive out of that 9 spot. The RBI, his first one of the season. He's raised his average from 250 to 308 with the 2 hits tonight. He's a guy who didn't love or doesn't love the Great Glove no-hit characterization, which is what he was labeled with in some circles coming into last year. And he always felt, you know, give me a chance and I'll show you. Kind of the Pilar attitude too. Give me a chance and let's see what happens.
He's always hit in minor leagues, and he was a very good hitter in the minor leagues. Not a power hitter by any means. There he got a little anxious, trying to have a big 3-hit night.
Here's what I think. He's hanging around guys like Donaldson and Tulowitzki, Bautista and Cardinals, guys who can juice the ball. I think he wants to get in on the act and be one of those guys who's not going to just flip the ball into the outfield. He's actually going to power the ball. We've seen that tonight from him. One to right center field and one over the head of the left fielder.
0-2. And a swing and a miss. Back-to-back strikeouts for Yates. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Blue Jays try to square up the series with the Yankees here after the Yankees won last night 3-2. Blue Jays leading 3-1, bottom 7. And a pitch taken just low for ball 1. Seems like so far, and this is often the case this early in the season, right now, generally speaking, pitching has the upper hand on hitting around baseball right now.
Yeah, it's all about timing. Hitters struggling with their timing. And pitchers, they have the ability to work on their pitches and really refine their command, while hitters are reliant on pitchers to throw to them, and then they got to gauge the timing and catch up to all those various pitches.
Don't tell that to Robinson Cano.
Hit his 5th home run today.
He's been hot. Look at that boy out in Colorado.
Trevor Story. Hit 7 home runs in his first 6 major league games. Because, you know, it's easy.
Yeah.
Pilar fouls it off.
Doing it in Colorado? No, I don't think so.
Yates looking to strike out the side. Bouncing ball to short. Torres with time to end the inning. So the Blue Jays go 1-2-3. We're at the end of 7, and the Jays still leading 3-1. Rogers Center, we go to the 8th inning. Here the Blue Jays are the Yankees, with the Blue Jays leading 3-1. Glad you're along with us tonight. Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, Pat Tabler. The pitching has been very good. Half for 6, and then a big 7th inning for Brett Cecil.
Yeah, it was a good inning for Brett Cecil. I think John Gibbons did the right thing. Get him in, get him out, 3 up, 3 down. And now he's got a positive feeling he can sit on that and think about his next outing.
Drew Storen in the 8th.
Yeah, and just like Brett Cecil, I think as the season goes along, as the month goes along, I think you're going to see a little bit sharper pitching at the end of the bullpen. Drew Storen and Brett Cecil are such a big part of this team. Osuna's been outstanding. We've got to get these guys ready right here and get them working and get that breaking ball back and get that good fastball back. And now you've got 3 guys that you can use to close out ball games.
Alex Rodriguez leads off the inning. First pitch swinging, sends one out to Bautista in right, 1 down. This is the blueprint for the Blue Jays to get a lead, get good starting pitching, get a lead, and then turn it over to Cecil, Storen, and Osuna in the last 3 innings.
It will vary according to who you're playing as to who pitches the 7th and who pitches the 8th. But Osuna, he's going to pitch the 9th.
Here's Mark Teixeira, turns around to bat from the left side against the right-hander Storen.
But it all begins with starting pitching, doesn't it? And the Blue Jays got 6 very good innings from Jay Happ. This against a Yankee team that has been hitting the ball. They were 4th in the American League in hitting coming into this game.
Happ threw another 0 for 5 on A-Rod and Teixeira tonight. Now they're 2 for 22 against him. So you keep the middle of the order quiet, got a pretty good chance to win the game.
A ball hit a ton down the right field line, and it is gone. Off the netting that serves as the foul pole here at Rogers Center, but Mark Teixeira with his 3rd home run of the season to bring the Yankees back within a run.
Well, he is such a big part of their offense. Teixeira, when he was out last year, when he found that ball off his shin and broke his leg, the Yankees offense was different. It just wasn't the same without that big bat in the middle of the lineup. And he's going to get him back very quickly. This is a 2-seamer that comes right back over the middle of the plate, and that patented Teixeira lift, if you will, from the left side right off the foul pole.
So now the always dangerous Carlos Beltran comes up as the game's tying run. With that run there, the Blue Jays have now been outscored 19-3 from the 6th inning on. They're doing just fine in the first 5, although they could be hitting better even earlier in games. But it has been their inability to hit against opposing bullpens and the inability of certain members of their bullpen to protect leads that have been real issues for this team in the first week and a half of the season. And Beltran chases 2 down.
Good sequence of pitches from Drew Storen to bounce back and record the 2nd out of the inning. He did a nice job as he threw a first pitch changeup, and then he finishes off Beltran with another very good changeup. Movement down and away, and he was fooled badly on that strikeout pitch.
Now Starlin Castro 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. He's got a couple of home runs already this season. Breaking ball popped up and back out of play. Castro's been a 10 to 14 home run guy in his full years in the big leagues, all of them with the Cubs. A high of 14 on a couple of occasions, 2012 and 2014.
He's going to hit more than that in Yankee Stadium because he's got opposite field power.
He's got a quick bat, doesn't he?
And they get a short porch. 0-1 just missed. In the Yankee bullpen, the big guy on the left, Dellin Betances, and that's Ivan Nova on the right.
The big guy and the bigger guy.
Yeah, that's right. Good breaking ball, and Castro fooled. Storen's giving up a run, trying to make sure it doesn't get any worse than that. Did he? Won't even appeal, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes on the check swing by Castro. With Chase Headley on deck should the inning continue. You got to replenish your seeds between pitches, right? You got them in the back pocket. Put about 40 in your mouth after the 2-2 pitch. Broken about roller to short to end the inning. A run for the Yankees. 3-2 Blue Jays going to the bottom of the 8th. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Here are Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio. Back inside Rogers Center to the bottom of the 8th inning with the Blue Jays leading the Yankees 3-2. Another close, tight, low-scoring game. Ivan Nova comes out of the pen for the Yankees. A guy who's been a starter more than a reliever in his time in New York, but he lost out to CC Sabathia for a spot in the rotation, so he's working out of the bullpen.
And will pitch as a lone reliever out of that bullpen. He can give you multiple innings. He's got a good fastball. He can sink it in a good breaking ball, a good curveball that he'll use for his strikeouts. Nova, you mentioned he lost out on that 5th spot to CC Sabathia, but he becomes very valuable pitching out of the bullpen. It's been a couple of years since he's pitched out of the pen.
And he'll face Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion, looking to give Roberto Osuna a little bit more breathing room heading to the ninth. Donaldson laces one fair down the left field line. It'll kick back to Hicks. Donaldson digging for second and in there with a leadoff double.
Well, he is so dangerous on that first pitch. You can't just throw it in there and get me over strike against him because he's so ready to hit. High leg kick, sells out on the fastball and rips this ball into the corner for extra bases. Nova looked like he was just saying, hey, here's my first fastball. I'm going to try and get ahead of you. And Donaldson would have nothing with it. Rips it into the corner. Blue Jays get a good start here in the eighth.
Here's Bautista, 1 for 3. And it kicks away from Romine. And jogging to third is Donaldson.
Well, Donaldson, he's 7 for 16 against Nova. He was looking for a first pitch cookie that he could hammer, and then he moves up on this breaking ball, and Romine doesn't do a very good job. You call that breaking ball, you got to slide out and get in front of it. And now that's going to draw the infield in. Bautista, he's really got the advantage now.
And Nova misses badly upstairs. Crowd booing, but it was a curveball that just slipped out of his hand, and it's ball 2. Can you lock in on a fastball now, 2-0?
I think he's just going to lock in on something out over the plate. Just try to plate this run in from third.
Ooh, big cut, but he fouled it back. Ooh, he was trying to plate himself from home with that swing too. But he's earned that right.
He's an RBI guy, and he's got a free gift right down there at third base, just 90 feet away.
Donaldson in to score. Bautista on his way to second. 4-2 Blue Jays.
This is more familiar. Donaldson double, Bautista double, nobody out, a run in the eighth, and a 2-run push.
And the pressure being put right on that pitcher. When you got to face these 3 guys, Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion, puts a lot of worry into him. Look at Jose. Sees that ball, gets that front foot down, and rips this ball. It is so much easier to hit with that infield in. All you're thinking about is getting the ball into the outfield. Jose does one better with the double.
Now here's Encarnacion. Chased, and it's 0-1. Edwin is 1 for 3 tonight. Had a base hit back in the first. Blue Jays have 7 hits now in the game, but 5 of them have been doubles, including Saunders' 3-4-5 hopper up the third baseline against the shift. Goins has a couple of doubles, Saunders the double, and now Donaldson and Bautista here in the bottom of the 8th.
These 3 hitters have a boatload of at-bats against Nova. Donaldson now 16, Bautista 20, and Encarnacion has 22. They've seen him a lot.
And Edwin's got him in his book. He's taking Nova deep.
Swung at a pitch in under his hands, 1-2. Donaldson leading off the inning with a double, scoring on Bautista's double. And Bautista hoping Encarnacion can keep the line moving. Ground ball to third. And Bautista's breaking for third and is in there without a throw.
Well, Bautista, he's a ball player. Watch how he keeps his eye on Headley. Once he sees the third baseman set up for the throw, he breaks for third, and that gets him in position for Tulowitzki. I mean, this is all about a team, and Bautista can appreciate those good opportunities driving in runs, and now he's given one to Tulowitzki.
Infield in again. Tulowitzki just trying to get something in the air and bring home another run. 4-2 Blue Jays, looking for more in the bottom of the 8th. And a strike. Tulowitzki 0 for 3 on the night, and now 3 for 30. Actually 3 for 31, an .097 batting average on the season.
No time to be thinking. All of that, put that behind you. Just see the ball and hit it.
Which he does, in a right field, a base hit, and it's 5-2.
It is so much easier to hit with a runner at third than it is with a runner at second. You just relax and know all I got to do is get a ball to the outfield and I'm going to pick up an RBI. You're not thinking about getting a base hit. Just have a good at bat. Drive something to the outfield and you're going to chase home Bautista.
And you got the infield in, and a lot of times hitters will go up there and they start thinking too much instead of just reacting. Let your natural ability come through, and that swing right there from Tulowitzki. He just saw the ball and just let it happen.
Michael Saunders takes low ball 1. So the Blue Jays cashing in a couple of insurance runs here in the bottom of the 8th. They lead 5-2. Donaldson and Bautista continue to be in the middle of a lot of things, but they've had some help tonight. Tulowitzki with the RBI single. Ryan Goins with a couple of doubles. Fly ball to left field. It's pretty deep. It is off the wall. Falling down is Hicks. Gets back up, makes a very strong throw into the infield. Tulowitzki held at third on an opposite field double by Saunders.
You know, we had a chance to see Michael in spring training and then see him in Montreal. And I'm surprised. He's got some power the other way. It doesn't look like he overswings, but his fly balls just keep carrying and carrying. This ball looked like it was just going to be a fly ball to left field. Hicks, watch him. He goes back and then realizes this thing is over his head. It's another double for the Blue Jays. Saunders stays behind that one and just knocks it off the wall the other way.
So 6 doubles for the Blue Jays in this game, and again the infield is forced to come in. Second and third one out for Russell Martin. Well, Tulowitzki got a hit, got an RBI in this inning. Can Martin get one? Blocked by Romine.
Take that same approach that we saw from Tulowitzki. Don't think about what the pitcher's trying to do to you. Don't think about my swing or my mechanics. Just see the ball and let it go.
Base hit here could cash in a couple. Tulowitzki will tag. He'll come in to score, and Saunders will come to third. 6-2 Blue Jays.
Well, the inning is played out perfectly for the Blue Jays, and it started with Donaldson. Bautista double. Edwin with the ground ball, and then Tulowitzki gets an RBI single the opposite field. Russell hits a sac fly the opposite field, and these good at bats are going to get the strokes going because they're letting the ball travel. They're driving the ball the opposite way, and all of a sudden things look right with this Blue Jays lineup.
They're feel good at bats late in a ball game. You get those add-on runs, and that's what the Blue Jays were missing here the last week.
And that pitch hit Justin Smoke, so Saunders is going to be sent back to third. Smoke hit by the breaking ball down near the foot, and he'll head down to first base. Boy, an ugly inning for Ivan Nova. Not a whole lot Smoke can do to get out of the way. Right on the outside of the right ankle, it looked like. Here's Goins. Goins doubled in a run in the second, doubled and scored in the fifth, and struck out in the seventh. Blue Jays have tacked on 3 here in the bottom of the 8th to take a 6-2 lead. As that changeup sails outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Meanwhile, in the bullpen, Pat Venditti is up again. He has joined Roberto Osuna. It's already not a save situation. So does that mean they're going to go to Venditti and Osuna will be held back just in case?
Sounds good to me. Save your bullets.
Yeah, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, and obviously it's not a save situation. You have an opportunity to get Venditti into a ball game. You got the Yankees again tomorrow, and then a 4-game series over the weekend in Boston.
They'd just as soon now with a 4-run lead save Osuna for tomorrow, unless he needs him later on.
1-2. Clubbed into right center, a base hit. Saunders will score. Smoke around to third. Third hit of the game for Goins, and it's 7-2.
He's a different type of hitter, Ryan Goins. He's getting his fastball. He's taking a healthy cut. Double to right center his first time up. Double to left field over the head of the left fielder. And this time, watch him get on top of this high breaking ball. Get on it, take a healthy cut, and rip it up the middle for an RBI.
That's how you hit a hanging breaking ball. It was probably a ball out of the zone up, but you don't let it go. He got upstairs, got on top of it, picks up his 3rd hit, and drives in a run.
And now back to the top of the order for Kevin Pillar. A 4-run 8th inning now for the Blue Jays. Well, remember, we told you that in the 8 games coming in, and now this one, before this half inning, the Blue Jays had been outscored 19-3 from the 6th inning on. They've got more runs this inning than they've gotten in innings 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the first 8 games coming into this one.
Well, and with all of their power, maybe the key play in the inning was Bautista going from 2nd to 3rd on the ground out to Headley. That set up the rest of the inning very well.
You know what I like it? They finally hit double digits in hits for the first time in a game this season. First time. Did it 67 times last year.
And scoring some runs without hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Singles and doubles. Pillar fouls it off down the right side. So it'll be Venditti in the 9th inning with the Blue Jays up 7-2. Some long faces in that first base dugout right now. 2-2. Ground ball to short, and the inning is finally over. But the Blue Jays, with one of the best innings they've had on the season at the expense of Ivan Nova, they score 4 times. Goins in the middle of it again. Go here to the top of the 9th inning. Pat Venditti is into the game. We've talked about him fairly extensively tonight. Just had his contract purchased by the Blue Jays today. His numbers with Oakland a year ago. Had a very good spring for the Blue Jays. And again, he is unlike any pitcher who's ever pitched before in baseball because he will throw with both hands. Now we have Chase Headley, a switch hitter, coming up. And the rule is Venditti has to declare which hand he's going to throw with first. Then Headley decides which way he's going to hit. So Venditti chooses left. Headley obviously chooses right. And away we go. And this is where Venditti struggled last year when he did not have the so-called platoon advantage. He did great as a lefty against lefties. He did well as a righty against righties. He did not do well as a lefty against righties.
He appeared in 26 games with Oakland. Had a 2-2 record, and he's pitched just twice, 2 innings down in Buffalo. But he throws strikes. He had 5 strikeouts in 2 innings.
His best pitch is probably a slider that he will use, especially when he has, what did you call it, the switch advantage?
The platoon advantage, I guess?
Platoon advantage.
I'm just making it up on the fly.
I like it. I'm going with it. And he'll sweep that breaking ball.
Every time a switch hitter faced Venditti last year with Oakland, he chose to throw from the left side, and the hitter chose to hit from the right side. The next hitter is Torres, who's a righty, and Venditti will turn around to bat to throw right-handed as Headley sends a high fly ball to left center. Room for Pilar. 1 down. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here are Ken Reed and Ivanka Osman. All right, guys, thank you. Back here for the 9th inning. Here's Torres, and now you're seeing Venditti throw from the right side. Torres is 2 for 3 tonight, single and a double. You guys saw the stuff down in Dunedin. Is the stuff similar from the left side and the right side for Venditti?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very similar. I watched him throw early in the spring. I'd say it's a little bit crisper from the left side than it is from the right side, but he throws the same pitches.
Breaking ball seems to break a little bit more from the left side. Agree? You saw him a little bit more than I did in spring training.
I think that's true. He's just not quite as sharp from the right side as he is from the left side, from what I've seen.
Ground ball to short. 2 down.
The all-new Honda Civic, now available with Turbo, the 2016 North American Car of the Year.
So the Blue Jays are an out away from defeating the New York Yankees after losing last night. We'll have them again for you tomorrow night. Jays and Yankees, Stroman and Eovaldi. Venditti again from the right side because Austin Romine, the batter, is a right-handed batter. Jay Happ, 6 innings, just 1 run allowed. Cecil worked a perfect 7th. Storen gave up a run and a home run to Mark Teixeira in the 8th, and now Venditti working the 9th. But it was really more about the offense, I think, tonight, especially considering how much they had been struggling.
It's always about the offense with the Blue Jays, and it's just taken them a while to get those bats loosened up. 4 runs on 5 hits in the 8th inning broke the game wide open. Going to see more of these games against the Yankees and the Blue Jays than you're going to see what you saw last night.
The 2-1, hot shot down to third. Donaldson has it, and that's the ball game. So the Blue Jays pick up a victory, go to 4-5 on the season. And a lot of different parts, and you can see their faces here. A lot of different guys contributing in this one.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing about the balance. And in the 8th, Donaldson started with a double, followed by the Bautista double, and then just good at bats from Tulowitzki and Martin. Goins had a big 3-hit night, and the bats are starting to look a little bit more normal.
And as that inning progressed, you could just see the guys take a sigh of relief, and they were relaxed as that inning went along. They finally put up 10 hits in a ball game.
Jay Happ gets the win. Michael Pineda takes the loss. The Blue Jays hit 6 doubles in the game to win 7-2. Time now for Sportsnet Central. Let's send you to Ken Reed and Ivanka Osman.